Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome back to the Planet FPL Weekender, and the Hunter's back in. It's my Friday partner in crime. It's David Hunter. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Glad to get the proper footy back this weekend.
Yeah, I've got some good news for you. The next international break is only 4 weeks away, but
Yeah.
England did impress on Tuesday night, and we're going to touch on that during the course of this podcast. We're going to have a little brief discussion about Ismaila Sarr replacements under his value, because that seems to be a little bit of a struggle at the moment. We're going to have a look at some free hit drafts for this week and some wild card drafts. I know many of you are activating chips ahead of tomorrow's deadline as well. But we're going to start with what I think is the big headline across the last week and a kind of a broken three-part discussion on Nottingham Forest. We look at the game at Arsenal tomorrow. We'll discuss Ange. But we'll start, David, with obviously the departure of Nuno Espirito Santo, which I think for many of us did not come as a surprise.
No, definitely not. No, probably the least surprised person might have been Nuno himself, I imagine. I feel like it started last season, but remember after the Taiwo Awani injury,
The Leicester game,
the
yeah.
Leicester game, yeah, that seemed a little bit odd at the time, didn't it? Then summer came and went, and then Nuno had another go, didn't he, a few weeks ago? And yeah, I think you said at the time, didn't you, the writing might have been on the wall then. Add into the mix that West Ham performance and an international break, and we are where we are. Really, I guess the surprising thing is the fact that it's Ange's straight in at such speed, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think with Nuno, there was the incident at the end of last season, which I think he himself handled very well. He then spoke at pre-season and said, like, we're not ready. And then they mullered Brentford in the opening game, and he went, all right, well, that's fine. By which point it was obviously confirmation of which European competition Forest were going to play. And it's like, right, call to arms now. It's going to be the Europa League. Definitely need increased depth. Forest went and got that. Then in the build up between after the Brentford game and then before the Palace game, it was one of them. I saw it on my timeline, and it was, oh, he can't say that, Nuno. In terms of like the broken relation, I was like, I need to watch this to see if it's the real gig. And he watch it, and my reaction straight away was, I don't know if he'll be manager this weekend because you just can't come out and say that publicly. I've seen a few Forest fans. I don't think this is shared by everybody, but a few even say it almost felt like he was trying to get sacked,
Yeah, I
as in
saw
he
that.
just knew that once Eder had come in, there was obviously a breakdown of relationships, and it wasn't going to work. So I think you're right. I don't think he's surprised at all. I think it's worth acknowledging that he did an absolutely brilliant job at Nottingham Forest. I don't think he was particularly wanted. He kind of had the stigma of the spell at Tottenham when he took over from Steve Cooper. And Steve Cooper was adored by the Forest faithful, having got them up. And I think Nuno will now be held in kind of similar regard, having obviously got the club into qualification for Europe, which is an incredible achievement. None of us would have sat here this time last year and predicted that. Remember when Forest beat you at Anfield? What
Yeah.
was that, game 3 or 4?
Mm.
And it was so much about Liverpool and not just thinking maybe not in a Forest or a better football team now. You only took 1 point off them last year, actually. And it wasn't the only good result Forest had last year. Obviously, really strong defensively. I think me and Mark spoke in pre-season about the potential evolution of Forest on top of the Nuno comments. And could Nuno bring a brand of football that was going to be what Marinakis' ideology was? I think was doubtful. But yeah, should be acknowledged as doing a great job. And the next Premier League job that comes up where team's in trouble, his name's going to be right near the front of the queue of that. That's
Yeah.
almost like a reliable hand, like a modern. I don't really want to compare him to like a Sam Allardyce or something, but that's more the way people would go now, isn't it? Our Nuno would be all right with Nuno,
Yeah, I think he leaves with his reputation enhanced from
very
before the
much so.
Forest job. He's, I think he's a good guy, isn't he? A good person. He's left before it's got too toxic or nasty. It's a shame for him that he's not really had a chance to
Carry them in Europe,
carry them
particularly,
into
really.
Europe, which,
Yeah.
which he led them to. But yeah, I've got no doubt at all he'll be back in the Premier League probably this season at some point when a club presses the button.
I wouldn't be at all surprised. So I think the decision came as no shock. And I think the timing of announcement, which was kind of sort of half 11ish at night, it was going around, he was probably going to go. And then Forest officially announced it at like midnight, told me that we'd wake up in the morning and we'd know who was going to be new manager. There was plenty of people saying it would be Ange. I didn't think it would be. Your reaction, David?
I love it as an appointment, as a neutral. I think,
It's box office, mate. Like, I
yeah,
love that element of it.
him and Mr. Marinakis will be absolutely brilliant to watch. Um, yeah, I mean, this morning in preparation for this, I watched 30 minutes, his entire 30-minute press conference, and a 5-minute training video. And some managers that might be quite hard going watching something like that, but with Ange it just flies by. Like he's on good form as he he's excited about a new job. He's not kind of beaten up by things like he was towards the end at Spurs, cracking jokes, saying all the right things. Um, yeah, he couldn't resist a little barb at being sacked from Tottenham after winning the Europa League. He doesn't think. I mean, why would he think he deserved to be sacked? But he doesn't think he deserves to be sacked after that. But yeah, he looks up for the challenge definitely, and yeah, I guess we'll get onto it in a minute. But the interesting thing is what a reversal in playing styles that Forest are going to have now. Basically, you could not get a more opposite man or manager from Nuno in Ange, really. Because I think watching a 30-minute Nuno press conference would be, I don't know whether he's ever had a 30-minute press conference because he's
Well,
just,
Nuno notoriously give you like nothing in terms of
yeah,
team news and stuff.
exactly, yeah. So both as a guy and as a style of play, Forest are going to have completely new things going on, but it'll be worth watching, good or bad, I think, definitely.
Yeah, I think on the press conference stuff, I'm not surprised that that was well received by the majority yesterday. When Ange is in a good mood, his press conferences are absolutely great.
Yeah,
When he's not,
yeah,
he's liable to say something that puts him on a back page of a newspaper. So when it's going well, Ange is really charming and really great to listen to. When it's going downhill, or if it goes downhill, or if there's negative press around him, he obviously does put a barricade up, which is very much, you know, almost a bit like Mourinho, like respect, right?
yeah.
Second season and all that. He's
Well,
getting he's getting his third season.
yeah,
I'm really pleased for him. I hope that he does really well. There's certainly no feeling from my perspective of, oh, I hope he doesn't do well at Forest. Like, I hope he does. Obviously, I hope he doesn't do as well as my team, but I hope that he does well, particularly in Europa League this year. It would just be such a phenomenal story if he took Forest all the way in that again. And
yeah,
I suspect he probably will take Forest quite deep in that because their squad does have depth. There's question marks, I think, about that depth defensively, which is kind of a to be confirmed. But they've got the depth offensively, I think, to deal with what people will obviously throw the accusation of there will be inevitable injuries. There may well be. It was not Ange Postecoglou's fault that Ola Aina pulled his hamstring on international duty, but it was going doing the rounds of, oh, well, Ange is in, here we go kind of stuff. I think it's a dangerous appointment, but it's also a bullish one. I think speaks of what Nottingham Forest want to be. Ange spoke a lot yesterday about the idea of actually winning something. You have to remember that Nottingham Forest, until the last couple of years, had a pretty shocking 21st century, right?
yeah,
Not been in the top division at all and weren't often close to coming back. So there's still a football club on the rise. The chairman is obviously extremely ambitious. Ange is the sort of personality that will be able to deal with it, but he's also got the sort of personality that may mean that in a year's time or so that they clash. I liked Angie's line yesterday. We said, "Well, I might have to win a trophy in my first season because I might not be here next year," and I think it shows the elevation of what Marinakis wants Nottingham Forest to be. In terms of the immediate, I don't expect a wild change in tactics from what we've seen. I cannot see that he's walked into training on Wednesday and gone, right, lads, go 20 yards further up the pitch, fullbacks inverted, press from the front. Like, if you're going to do that, like, immediately away to Arsenal, you're going to get slaughtered. And because they won't be ready for it. So I think my instinct is on tomorrow, we'll talk the game tactically a bit more in a sec, that it won't look too dissimilar to what you've been used to. Remember as well that Ange went very negative to get Tottenham over the line in Europa League. And it could well be that he's learnt lessons from that because I think, one of the famous lines at Tottenham was, while I'm here, mate, this is how we'll play kind of gig. Well, Tottenham didn't win the Europa League playing Ange ball. They played there was something that was more akin to Nuno ball, actually, is what got Tottenham over the line. It wasn't just the final, both legs against Bodo, the Frankfurt away game in the quarterfinals, well, all of them were all defensive disciplined performances. So he can do it. He can do it. I'd argue that Nottingham Forest personnel is stronger than what Tottenham's had last year as well. League table probably argues for that when you consider as well the injuries that Tottenham had throughout the season. So I don't think he's going to go to Arsenal and go this, that, and the other. I think the key thing is he hasn't had the pre-season. So in the first 10 games at Tottenham, he won eight and drew two. It was immediately clear in the first 2 minutes of the first pre-season game what Ange Ball was going to be like. It was going to be really good to watch as long as you were winning games. We played a friendly against West Ham. We lost 3-2, and I'm telling you, we should have won about 8-3. Which is one of them afterwards went, I'm so pleased with that because of how they're playing, and we'd had the negative Conte, Nuno, and Mourinho before that. And I saw Rory, our Crystal Palace correspondent, put on our Slack the other day. You've all forgotten that James thought he was the Messiah after 10 games. I think we all did a little bit because that start was phenomenal. There was a lot of luck that went over that period that people have also forgotten. Losing 1-0 to Sheffield United in the 97th minute and winning the Luis Diaz goal. The fixtures were quite kind, but it was still a brilliant start that then unravelled from injuries. But those 10 games were something that I kept holding on to for a very, very long time of what Ange Ball could be. It never really returned for more than like sprinklings of the odd good half hour here on there. Tottenham were regularly going 1-0 down in like near enough all home games for pretty much the rest of the season. I think we came from behind and won on like 6 or 7 occasions.
Yeah,
His idea of philosophy will be that he wants his fullbacks to basically go into the 10 position, right? He will want to press from the front. It's kind of a 4-4-2 without the ball, and he'll want the team to go and press. He will ideally, within possession, want to play with a single pivot. I think probably longer term, Elliot Anderson will fulfill a role that was quite similar to what he deployed for England on Tuesday night. But if he wants to go with the same tactics that he did primarily in the Premier League with Tottenham, it will not work. Doesn't mean that he can't adapt, but everybody knows how to beat it now.
yeah. A few things on that then. So Ange, Ange made pretty clear that he will want to play good football. He was saying all those things yesterday. So I mean, I completely agree that Spurs were a different side when you were kind of edging your way towards the Europa League final last season. I think that was out of necessity, really, wasn't it, with the injuries that took
Yeah,
place?
we will never know if that was his decision or not.
Yeah, he
I
made a
don't have to.
reference to a couple of bits about Spurs. He mentioned that he wasn't happy with pre-season last year, and he also said that there were too many young players at his disposal. So, and he also said he never really spoke to Daniel Levy as well. Just a few asides that came up in that press conference.
Listen, as many Tottenham fans will tell you, the less involvement Daniel Levy had with the football
Yeah,
operations. Anyway, moving on.
yeah. So it will be interesting, and there is definitely some high risk about that. The fact that he's had no pre-season and they are going to be playing twice a week to implement a new playing style at Forest on the fly, like he's trying to, like in that training video I watched yesterday. It was all work with the ball, playing out from the back with one of the keepers. It wasn't Matt Sells. It was might have been the Brazilian lad. Um, so yeah, but the other thing to say, he's not really had his players either because they've been all over the world on international duty. So he's probably only had two, max three sessions with the full squad. I think he said that in the press conference. So the sensible thing, as you've just said, will be to not change too much in a fixture like Arsenal away first up. Otherwise, it
Yeah, I think
could be ugly.
he actually starts with 4 away games,
Yeah, he said that. Yeah,
which is
yeah,
bizarre. So it's Arsenal this weekend, but then the next three are kinda in the sense it's Swansea in the cup, then Burnley in the league, and then there's the exciting first trip to Real Betis in the Europa League. But the Europa League, you can lose a game and recover and still
yeah.
finish top 8 and stuff. Then is Sunderland at home. So I think from Monday he'll want to move towards his style slowly. I would be staggered if he went to Arsenal tomorrow and he's so principled that this is who we are, mate. It's not going to work.
No,
Everybody knew how to beat us. It's really, really simple. Any team that has got quick, direct wingers would slaughter us. And I look at the weekend and see Madueke and Martinelli as examples, could be Eze instead. And you go, right, quick switches of play, boom, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, spoiler alert on the free hit chat. We've both got three Arsenal, and
I
we just in
think,
case he does go for it.
yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't think the game this weekend will be wildly different. I think a couple of notes on a few Forest things from an FPL perspective before we talk the tactics maybe for the game. Lots of people, oh, Angie's in, I got to bin my Forest defensive. I think I'll give you a couple of examples. Someone asked me in my stream yesterday, said, I'm free hitting in six, which when Forest play Sunderland at home. So from a fixture perspective, it's like only the Burnley game that particularly interests. So it's Arsenal away, Burnley away, Sunderland at home, Newcastle away, Chelsea home. Right. If you're only looking at the Burnley game as sort of four of the next five, then yeah, it's potentially binnable when you've got people like Munoz or Arsenal assets, Chelsea assets, particularly appealing at the moment. Even downgrade to like an Anderson, we'll speak about later on the pod. So I'd say under that circumstance, yes. I've got Murillo. I'm being very clear. My thought process is bench him tomorrow, play him in 5 and 6, bin him in 7. And Ange being manager doesn't change that at all. That was the plan under Nuno anyway. So I'm quite happy with that. That would be my advice to people. In terms of a few bits of personnel that might get impacted, I spoke about Anderson, who I think would probably be the only player in the squad at the moment you'd be comfortable playing as a single pivot. There is so much pressure on that role, not just in terms of technical qualities, but particularly physical qualities. If he's going to do that, he might go. Like, I mean, Bentancur and Bissouma held hands in Europa League final and those final in the semi final as well. If he goes with that, then it will still be like Sangari or Lewis with him. But if he wants to be a single pivot, I can see it being Anderson. He's also got the legs
Yeah,
to get around the pitch. I think that would be very bad for Elliot Anderson's prospects for England next summer because he'd probably go to the tournament absolutely shattered. Wide players will be particularly important. Someone asked me yesterday about service for Wood. And I said it will pretty much be dependent in terms of the wide players. What Ange wants his wide players to do is hold the touchline high, get to the byline where possible. Each those sort of crosses going to be more beneficial to Wood. He's obviously very good aerially, but I think if you provide for him in the penalty area, he's a decent finisher, be it with his head or his feet. I wouldn't say Wood's a guarantee in the longer term. I'd also say he's not a guarantee for this weekend, by the way, having played for New Zealand in Oceania against Australia early on Tuesday morning. Someone like Callum Owendo might be a better fit for what Forest want as a nine, not because he's a better player, this, that, and the other. I just cannot foresee Chris Wood pressing in an
more
Ange
mobile.
system.
Yeah,
That's the biggest problem there. There was a lot made when he joined us about having a forward that would run in behind. I don't think it's as much as that. It's no coincidence when they got Solanke. He's one of the best pressing forwards in the league. So that would be a concern. You can get away with that because behind that, someone like Morgan Gibbs White has great energy. Lots of people referencing Milenkovic. What's he going to do on the halfway line? Um, I would suggest you can see the fear in Nikola Milenkovic if you look back at the red card against England in the week. And the fact, if you were watching it live on the TV for a brief moment, you'd have thought Harry Kane is offside as he received the pass. Milenkovic was so much deeper than the rest of his defence, he wasn't even in shot. And he appeared in shot and got sent off. He's shown himself to be a very, very good centre back defending the penalty area.
yeah,
How he'll be on the halfway line, I can tell you how he'll be. He won't be in the team for long. But
it's just
it doesn't mean that Ange is going to do that. Right?
no,
I know there was even a chat, a few of our patrons about comparing him to Dragishin, who's a player that I've spoken about a lot and said don't particularly rate. And I thought about it more and thought, well, Dragishin might show to be all right now in my team. Not as a starter, but like if he has to play, because he's not on the halfway line.
because they're playing
In
two
terms of
strengths.
in
Yeah,
terms of him aerially, he's much better in the air than Romero or Van der Ven in terms of his dominance. That would play into his strength, right?
yeah,
He wasn't comfortable on the halfway line. You saw him get sent off in a ironically Europa League first game against Karabag last year, where he's on the ball, he's ponderous, he's not comfortable, and I don't think that sort of thing is going to be particularly comfortable for Milenkovic. I'm intrigued to see how Murillo gets on. There's no doubt he will remain first choice, but I'm really intrigued to see what that looks like if it goes into an aggressive and strategy tactically. But I don't think Milenkovic has to worry this weekend. I think Forest will play the game very similar to how they would have played the game under Nuno.
yeah. I'll be looking forward to watching that one. It'll be bit of added spice to it, isn't it? With Ange going back to Arsenal first up.
I,
Yeah,
I'm very conflicted on this. I want to see Ange Ball that Ange Ball wants immediately because it will be fun. But
yeah,
I also don't want to sit there and watch Arsenal win 4 or 5-0 on Saturday.
yeah, yeah.
And I know Forest's best way of hurting Arsenal would be to draw them on. Forest have shown weaknesses when they've had teams draw them on, like West Ham did in game week 3. So for those on YouTube, put a graphic up in terms of maybe potential lineups for this weekend. So I just want to talk about a few aspects of that. So Raya, Timber, Mosquera, Gabriel, Calafiori. I think Mosquera will probably get a chance with Gabriel. Would Saliba's due out for a few weeks. Gabriel should be fine to play, by the way. I think he wasn't heavily featured for Brazil in Bolivia on Tuesday. And I'm sure with Saliba out, Arteta probably wouldn't want to take the chance of playing without him. Fullbacks, I would not be surprised if it's White and Lewis Skelly. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to Ange a bit and shove them into midfield. Um, Particularly as I think Martinelli might play. Midfield 3 will probably be Zubimendi, Rice, Odegaard. And I think Madareki's got to play again based on what he's shown us over the last week for England. Gyökeres up front. And I think probably Martinelli left. Now, there's different ways of doing that. And I think most Arsenal fans will want to see Eze this weekend. And they might. You asked me literally last night, will he start? And I said to you, probably. But thinking about it more, Arteta won't like this. He won't like that he doesn't know what he's going to get from an opponent. But if he gets Ange Ball, as Ange Ball would primarily want it, I think he'd be disappointed if he didn't pick Martinelli because
Spacing behind. Yeah,
that's the directness of the 1v1 wide player. The fullbacks, when Ange's system is what he wants it to be, the fullbacks get hung out to dry. I'm going to warn Nottingham Forest fans now, get used to seeing your fullback getting taken on 1v1 over and over again without support from teammates. And you're going to have to there's no point moaning about it because if he does it, you're just going to have to get used to it. Like I said, quick switches of play is going to put them in trouble massively. So it does make me think that Martinelli might still start just because of if Ange decides to go into the game positively. If Arteta thinks there's no way Ange will do that, then I think Eze will play. In terms of the Forest lineup, right back is also questionable. This is another reason why surely Ange isn't going to go over the top here because Ola Aina, actually, I've spoken about him a lot and said I think he'd be ideal for Tottenham when we had Ange because I think he would be great at doing that inverted fullback job. I think he's so comfortable on the ball. Now, we don't know the prognosis of the hamstring injury yet, but I think it's fairly. I've seen the clip of his injury. Right, he ain't playing this weekend.
I think it's quite serious. Actually, I think there's been some news about that this morning that
Right, okay.
could be a prolonged period that Aina's out for.
So I thought about what Forest could do at right back because the irony here is the best solution here is to put Williams to right back and play Zinchenko left back. Zinchenko can't play because he's ineligible. So we can't see that yet. And Zinchenko is also a player we know that would be comfortable moving infield from a fullback position. Yes, they may well have known that Ange was coming in when they signed Zinchenko on loan. So it doesn't leave brilliant options for right back this week. And there isn't great cover for left back if you just went Williams to the right, I don't think. So I think it's probably a choice of two. It's your boy Savannah, who you spoke about on this podcast last week, but did primarily play in the middle of a back three for Juventus.
Yep.
Or they played Zach Abbott in that position, who's also he's a young 19-year-old player, can play right back, right-sided centre back. I wouldn't be shocked if he played.
Mm,
But then the more I thought about Savannah, and it made me think, could Ange throw out a back five this weekend?
potentially, yeah. I think be a hell of a game to throw him in at, wouldn't it, Zach Abbott? I think,
But if he's got the three inside of him,
yeah. I think the lineup you've
and
got
then
on
I
there
think
seems more likely.
he would just go Anderson and Gibbs White as a two in midfield, and then still pick whatever his preference of wide players is.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an impossibility. I think my big message on this would be, yes, we would expect Arsenal to win the game, obviously, at the Emirates, but don't expect wide open Ange. If he does it, he's in for pelters. They'll get slaughtered.
Yeah.
So I don't think he'll do it.
Pick your battles, isn't it?
And I think surely he must have learnt some bits with Tottenham in terms of a bit more adaptability.
Yeah.
I also think we have to factor in that the league was such a shambles because it was such a focus on the Europa League that he didn't give a toss if Tottenham got slaughtered in the league, as long as they got the right results in Europa League. I hope he does well. I think my ultimate conclusion would be what me and Ricky Saunders discussed on podcast prior to the Europa League final. We both concluded the following: no one else in the Premier League will appoint Ange. No way. No one would touch it. Marinakis is the one that's brave enough. I wish them. I wish them the very best of luck.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I really like Ange as a guy. I think in defence of Marinakis for a second as well. I mean, he's said and done some unorthodox things, hasn't he? But Forest fans are very protective about Marinakis,
Yeah,
and I thought about it a little bit more, and I think if I was a Forest fan, I'd be exactly the same because like the cold hard facts are that when he bought the club, they were like bottom half of the championship, weren't they? They're possibly in the relegation zone. I think it's under Steve Cooper, and he's taken him into European football. So he's whatever you think about him, he's completely turned that club around. So fair play.
Suj and I had a discussion on a Tottenham podcast a couple of weeks ago about trying to create a siege mentality. He said that this was prior to them winning at Forest. He said we need to create a siege mentality. I said you got no chance. But no chance because there's no personality at that football club that's going to carry a siege mentality. Not the
Yeah,
manager, not the owner, not the players. You know, he was talking about leadership in that West Ham team, for example. So there's no one there that's going to carry a siege mentality for you. It's going to make the fans walk in the ground and want to like
yeah,
smash their fist against their chest before kickoff. Marinakis is a rare one because we spoke then about people like Mourinho, Ferguson, the sort of people that could create a kind of a us against the world. And yeah, if you were a Forest fan, I could completely understand that you would just want to follow Marinakis. Plus, essentially, he's got the football club there. He's
yeah,
backed it very heavily, right? So they love him.
yeah.
They
And you
love
can
him.
see why, definitely. Yeah,
So if he goes off beat and off track and does something that we think, well, that's not the norm, and like the Leicester incident, and we spoke about it at the time, and I said it's not normal for us to see a football chairman walk on the pitch, but I don't think for Marinakis specifically it's that unusual for him from where he's been culturally.
yeah,
It's just not the done thing, so we frown upon it. He's different to everybody else, isn't he?
yeah. It's the same
He's
with
questionable. I'm not going to say otherwise, but I
yeah,
totally understand why Forest fans love him.
like the tweet about Stuart Atwell and like banning Gary Neville from the stadium. It's like I don't think anybody else will publicly do that who's in charge of a club
Well,
in the
I'm
Premier
glad you've
League.
said that because December the 14th, I'm looking forward to seeing Ange again, and I don't want to get banned from the City ground. So I don't want to go in too hard on Marinakis. Did you watch England Tuesday night, David?
I did actually, yeah, yeah.
Actually, let's take that back a bit. Did you watch England last Saturday, David?
No,
You lucky boy.
I've not even seen the goals. Not even seen the goals of that one. I was out and I had the
David, you
alerts on.
could watch them and you'd forget them within a minute.
Yeah, I was at a tribute bands festival,
Oh, nice.
watching such bands as I think the best name of the band was Crowded Scouse was the best tribute band name. But yeah, I just had the goal alerts on the phone and obviously didn't get one until an own goal filtered through after about half an hour and was like, bloody hell, I can imagine how bad this game is. But I was looking forward to watching it on Tuesday because on paper, Serbia away looks a tough test, doesn't it? You can kind of judge Tuchel on a game like that. They've historically been had some really good players. Serbia, obviously a cliche phrase, tough place to go. Um, but in actual fact, like get on to England in a minute, but I thought Serbia were absolute dog shit to be honest. Like
They were
the way
dreadful, mate.
the way they approached the game, they were obviously playing for a 0-0, I think, and were successful for the best part of half an hour there. But it was one of those where you knew as soon as they conceded, they would have to kind of open up a little bit and throw some attacking players on, and you just knew England would score even more goals, really. Um, so yeah, Serbia are absolutely dreadful, but that's not England's fault, and England made them dreadful, and there were really good performances all over the pitch, weren't they? I can honestly say I really enjoyed watching England the other night. They were
Yep.
good to watch. Yeah,
Yep, but that's the best element of it, and I think that's the first time that we've probably done that and shared that collectively for a while, where you just couldn't really pick holes afterwards and think I've wasted 2 hours of my life, which is
no, they were
normally how
good.
you feel when you watch England. I have to say, just to comment on the Andorra game, I have huge sympathy with the players.
Yeah,
They know they're going to win the football match, and ultimately, the only thing that matters is that they win. And they know as soon as they score, they're going to win because the opposition isn't. We've seen this Andorra game several times over now, right? Can you remember that we beat Andorra 4-0 in the last qualifiers at Wembley? No, exactly. They're an irrelevance, right? I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean the game against these minnows is irrelevance. You win them, you leave. No one remembers them unless you go and get 8, 9, 10. Like we did that one time in San Marino. You remember, oh, it's fun. England scored 10. It's irrelevant, right? Um, we're at a position now where for the players that play in European competition, that there's such an intensity of football, even the fact that there's higher caliber fixtures in European competition because the way the format works now, you want these players to give 110% playing Andorra. They're going to stroll through it. And also, the big game was 3 days later.
Yeah,
Make sure you're right for that. The only game that mattered for England between Tuchel taking over and the World Cup next summer was this game in Serbia. And they played the game like that. They played the game with an intent. It was an England team, by the way, that missed, and David's going to laugh his way through this. No Trent, no Stones, no Colwell, no Branthwaite, no Hall, no Wharton, Palmer, Bellingham, Foden, Saka, Delap, and you can add others.
amazing.
You could have picked an England team that wasn't even in the squad that might have looked stronger than that team that was on the pitch the other night.
Yeah,
That's quite encouraging. Although, how some of these players will work their way back in would be quite questionable because I think one of the reasons we really liked the performance on Tuesday was the setup was right for the personnel that was involved. I liked the centre back pairing
yeah,
of Gay and Konsa. I'd said prior to both games that was the partnership that I wanted to see, and I really liked that. And if that was England's partnership at centre back next year, I'd be really, really comfortable with that. Mark Gay had 1 or 2 moments where he got isolated and he just handled it so smoothly. Brilliant.
looks decent, him, doesn't he?
You might have to wait a while, David. I'm sorry, says the Liverpool fan now. I like Tino Livramento at left back.
Yeah, brilliant.
Um, he did a great job of hitting the touchline offensively, really quick and early. He's got great stamina on him. And even though he's a right foot on the left, which is something I think most of us hate, we think about kind of Trippier playing there and stuff. He just feels fine with Livramento. I think
Yeah,
also because he has the ability to push past someone as well is quite helpful and he's quite comfortable with it. Reece James looks like at the moment he's going to have favouritism at right back. I'm absolutely fine with that. Reece brings great delivery, great passing range. He's also very physical and strong. So if you ended up in a duel with like a really quick left winger, you'd be quite comfortable with that sort of thing. It's fine. The standouts tactically were a few. One, Elliot Anderson playing, where I think he'll end up playing for Forest as a single pivot. And that would have been really encouraging for Forest fans to think, yeah, that can work. Because it's the first time I'd really seen him isolated as a one, as a real six, because I like him being kind of busy and being able to push on, almost quite similar to Declan Rice. I thought they would complement each other quite well. But Anderson played as a six, and Rice played where he plays for Arsenal. So you've now got Anderson playing in a six role that's freeing up Declan Rice to be the best version of Declan Rice. You've got Morgan Rogers in half space areas to the right of him, which worked really nicely. And because I think the creativity element was missing a little bit from central areas, got Harry Kane doing what I always want Harry Kane to do, drop short, not, oh, you've got to hold off, play off the shoulder and stuff. Harry Kane's the best passer in the England squad. I don't even whoever's available. Get him dropping short. When he drops short, what you need is someone to fill the void and attack the space. And I did a piece on talking tactics yesterday for advanced tier patrons, which on that system, Anthony Gordon could explode for England because his off the ball running to go into the space whenever Kane vacated it was so spot on. He could see it miles off. One of the beauties of the game was you had a high vantage point, so you could see the majority of the players throughout the game. Gordon didn't hold the touchline like we see most wide players do for England. As soon as Kane dropped short, Gordon was in centre forward positions. And Mederecki's so direct.
His
I really
goal was
like
great,
him.
wasn't it? Really good goal, Madueke's goal
I mean, the
from
goal's
start to
outstanding. I
finish.
sat
Yeah,
in the chair for the first time since I could remember and applauded
yeah,
an
it's really
England goal.
well
Just
worked.
literally sat there and went, "This is great." Um, I referenced Madueke towards the end of last season in reference to Bale, which I know is like, yeah, I know, calm down. But I think there are elements in him. I can that power and pace when he's running at someone.
I really don't like him on
Good
the
luck
left, though.
stopping.
I've seen him there a couple of times. I know he scored for England on the left in Andorra. I did watch that game, but I much prefer him on the right, cutting in like a modern day winger now. It seems less effective on the left whenever I've seen him. But yeah, his goal, the whole build up of it from Anderson to little little flick from Rodgers and then really direct from Madueke, wasn't it? And a good finish. Um, yeah, I looked at like an average position map from England in that game, and Gordon was England's furthest forward player. I noticed, so bearing out
Doesn't
exactly what
surprise
you've
me.
just said, Kane dropping back to receive passes from like Rice and Rodgers. Um, yeah, I mean, try not to get too excited because I don't, as I said before, I really wasn't impressed by Serbia, but you can only beat what's in front of you, and Serbia do have players who play for some clubs of a good standard, and England absolutely destroyed them, didn't they? So yeah, I think Tuchel needed that. I felt like
Yeah, he did.
his era really started on Tuesday night, didn't it? Everyone's kind of been a little bit underwhelmed and stuff.
Well, he did as well because he obviously came in and one of the first things he did was he was kind of critical of Southgate, wasn't he, about the style. And I think most people who watched England prior to Tuesday would have gone, this probably looks a bit worse.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, he needed that to give, I think, a sense of positivity and show what it could be. It's worth saying the players executed a game plan brilliantly.
yeah,
Thomas Tuchel's game plan. And I don't really give a shit what he does for Andorra at home and Latvia at home. With all due respect to these teams, it's when it matters. And I know from what I'd seen at Chelsea that Thomas Tuchel has great variety in his tactical setups, and it might be a difference maker
mm-hmm.
when it matters at the end. I agree with you. I think it's spot on. He needed that though. He
Yeah,
needed that for people to say, okay, that was the biggest game we had. Oh shit, we won that 5-0. That's great.
yeah. There will have been some people thinking, what's the fuss about this guy? He's been he's a gun for hire, isn't he? Just at the moment to win the
But
World Cup,
I,
and
I also think it's worth repeating what you've obviously said. Like they were bad, the opponent. So we also shouldn't get carried away. We're going to do this, that, and the other. I don't think the conditions next summer are going to particularly help us, etc. I wouldn't probably make England one of the favourites. But then also you look at the way they played the other night, and you think, well, there's so many good players you can potentially bring back into this team. There's
well,
a
I mean,
chance.
Serbia. There's a good chance, despite the result the other night, that Serbia may end up in the World Cup themselves. So that they are the sort of team that you would face.
Well, I think that they played the game not thinking about if we want to win this group, we've got to beat England. They were thinking if we get a draw here, that'll probably be a better result than what Albania get against them.
Yeah, 100% that. Yeah, I thought exactly the same. Yeah, mad tactics from Stojkovic. Yeah,
Yeah, they weren't good. But it's also worth saying it was very low block at 0-0, and England were playing well before the goal came. And so often we struggled in these fixtures. So I think the tactical setup was really good from Tuchel.
yeah,
Positive, more plays. Although I can tell you now, every England game now that that game's been won will be shit between now and the World Cup.
yeah,
Deal with it because there's too many other important things for the players. I'd say something interesting. I did think looking at that team the other night, and I'll pose it to you as a question. Of the 11 that started, how many trophies have they won? I don't know the exact answer, by the way, but it's quite interesting. This.
Gay's won a FA Cup. Kane's won a Bundesliga. Gordon's won a Carabao Cup. Madueke won the Conference League. Did he?
Yeah. Shall we give him the Club World Cup? I mean, he left before the
Yeah,
final. I don't know if that counts or
yeah,
not.
maybe. But yeah, Anderson's not won anything, has he? I don't think. Conser, no.
Declan Rice has
Declan Rice
with
has.
West Ham, Conference League. Essentially, the only player within that England squad who's obviously kind of had a successful career to date in terms of trophies won is Reece James, right? Reece James has won
Yeah,
loads with Chelsea,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, it might even be that Reece James has won as much as the rest of that squad, that team combined. I don't know the numbers,
No, no.
but it's light of that, which I just thought was interesting. There's no particular point to that. I just think it's quite intriguing and interesting.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good
Okay,
point.
let's move on to some FPL chat. First and foremost, are you an Ismail Sarr owner, David?
No, I am not.
Lucky you, mate. Um, I really thought I was ahead of the crowd, and I think a few other people thought that as well. And it was right choice.
I've been really
Unfortunate
lucky
outcome.
so far. I've not made a single transfer yet, and I'm not making one this weekend either. I've been on the right side of the injuries. I know for some people. I've been, my goal at the start of the season was to roll 5 consecutive weeks and then look at game week 6. And I'm on track currently to do that. Now I've said that, I'm going to get a boatload of injuries, aren't I?
Injuries, yes, I would say so, David. That's generally what happens here. Injuries will scupper plans, and it certainly would have been a role for me this week if Ishmael Assar had been fit. So I will tell you all that my intention, subject to the team news today, is to buy Antoine Semenyo. I sold Cole Palmer for Ishmael Assar, so I got a shitload of money sitting there. It doesn't cut me off of the path of buying Haaland if I want to do so in six. Although I suspect that I probably won't, but it leaves the option open where I'm not committed to that decision now. But many people don't have the money in the bank and need to come lower than 6.5 or at least stay at that value. Go on in, David. Who's your top pick?
I had a look at this, and there's no one other than Sarr whose price starts with a 6 below Sarr that I would touch. Being completely honest, I don't think there's anyone
What you
I
do
would.
is just leave him there for a month
No,
for.
I would drop. I would drop down to either Josh King maybe at 4.5, or I've got Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, who I had a real touch last game week. He came in for Strand Larson as my also, so I was actually celebrating Everton
So,
goals.
so
But
not having you not had to make an injury, a transfer because of injuries, but you had a player get injured and it got you 12 extra
yeah,
points. Well done. Love it.
sure everyone's really buzzing for me for that. But yeah, but I still think Dewsbury Hall will be a good prospect over the coming weeks. Yeah, I can honestly say that we spoke about my boy Kevin, didn't we, on the last weekend? Maybe he might be one to look at if he starts and looks good against Leeds tomorrow. But there's no one really. I would either try and go up if you got the money to someone like Semenyo, like you're doing, or yeah, drop right down and put some money in the bank, and it might help you get one of the big hitters down the line. That'd be my honest opinion.
Yeah, I'd go to King. That
Yeah.
would be first choice for me. I don't think he's a certain starter, but the fact it's walking into Leeds and Brentford does mean you can drop to it, and I think feel comfortable playing him in the next couple, and it lets you breathe. Maybe you've got a different player in that position, you're not happy with a choice, so then you can come up from them. You might think, oh, I've got Anderson. What does it mean now? Ange is in, is questionable. I mean, Elliot Anderson is 11 DEFCON man anyway. So you might think, well, I'll go to King and then I'll shove Anderson onto something in a few weeks um, and do it that way. That's the way I'd have gone. If I wasn't buying Semenyo, if I didn't have the money in the bank, I'd have gone King
Yeah, I agree with that.
and I'd have chanced that. I think part of that is because there's too many other players who might be good, but have too much of a question mark next to them at the moment, like Harvey Elliott as an example.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think Dewsbury Hall would be perfectly reasonable if people want to go there. I also think the likes of Casado, if that's what people deem as their solution, is fine. Just the consciousness of blocking free Chelsea players. I think Tyler Adams is kind of a Casado light from that perspective if you want a 5 million, but ultimately I would still prefer to go Dewsbury Hall over Adams personally. Yeah, those who could be good have question marks around them. What do you think about Rangers for those who didn't go there originally?
It feels like he obviously tore it up, didn't he, in game week 1? But he's had a couple of quiet weeks since then. I was, I had to really hold my nerve after that Wolves performance because I've got Elliot Anderson, and I was like, should I just tear up all my plans and get Rangers because he looked on it, didn't he? But I didn't buy him, and kind of glad I didn't now. But I guess I mean City, Marmouche is injured, Cherky's injured. There's absolutely no concerns over his game time, and City will have good fixtures coming up soon. Yeah, I don't mind it, but I feel like um, I've cooled on him a little bit since that first performance at Wolves.
Yeah, that's fine. I think if people deem that as a solution and aren't bothered if they're looking at it away to Arsenal in game week 5, then it's a reasonable one to pick up. I think City's fixtures over the next number of weeks, bar that Arsenal game, are perfectly fine. And I agree with you. I think listen, no City players kind of ever 100% from a minutes perspective, but yeah, I would expect him to play majority of games. I think very importantly, the Burnley game's got quite nice spacing around it now that there shouldn't be too much concern from rotation perspective for that particular fixture. So yeah, Josh King for me would be the
Mhm.
call.
The next two look good for him, don't they?
Basically, it's almost a default. I don't want to make the decision, so I'll put the money in the bank, and it's going to open up so many things for me. Where I don't know, I go from 4.0 to Gabriel and restructure the team and stuff like that in future weeks.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us about free hit draft that you've done for this week for us, David.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's a really interesting week for free hit. Because there's some obvious teams to target, aren't there? So interestingly, I've picked four defenders. I mean, there's some really good defensive options. I think this week for free hit. I know a lot of people are on it. Um, so I'll just run through the team. So I've basically got three Arsenal, three Palace, three Liverpool, and then two other spots. So three Arsenal. I've got David Raya. Went for Madueke. I think you're right. I mean, as a as he sounds more fun, but there's definitely not a guarantee he'll
Oh,
start. Is there?
for an Arsenal attacking midfielder this way, I'll definitely go Madueke.
Yeah. Gyökeres, I think he's obviously a certain starter. Palace, Daniel Munoz, probably first name on the team sheet for free hit this week. I think any game he's capable of scoring points from different ways, isn't he? Maxence Lacroix, um, definitely clean sheet chances for Palace, and he's DefCon very good at DefCons, isn't he? Mateta, enough said, as one of the strikers. Three Liverpool, Virgil and Mo Salah were obvious ones. I've got Salah as captain. The third one, I just feel like I would have a go at Ekatike, I think, rather than Gakpo. Do you think Ekatike will start tomorrow? Not expect not expecting to see Isaac possibly start any of the next three. Actually, he's not played much football, has he? Got what 25 minutes for Sweden the other night. I think Ekatike will have a point to prove, and he's looked good, so I've gone with him. And that left two spots. Really like the idea of Joachim Anderson on free hit this week. We've spoke about Leeds' likely struggle to score goals this season. Um, Good at DefCons, I think, Anderson, and he's also got creative um, possibilities as well. So I was quite keen to get Joachim Anderson in there. And then the other one was Semenyo in midfield, potentially explosive on his day. So I went with him. So yeah, 4-3-3. Usually with a free hit, you'd probably just go with three defenders, wouldn't you? But I do like the four at the back for this.
Yeah, it's interesting. Your bench that you sent me as well, Petrovic, Casado, King, Senasai. Was that a situation where you were happy enough with the team that you didn't feel like you could force anything up
Yeah, yeah,
elsewhere, therefore you didn't need to do it?
yeah. I mean, I kind of had quite a bit of money to because I wasn't really ever considering Cole Palmer or someone like that for this. Well, Bruno Fernandes is obviously at City, so I didn't go with him. So once I'd gone with the 11, kind of had the budget to put genuine bench options on the bench. If you never know, do you? After international weeks, some people may get a rest, but yeah, I think it's quite easy to get a really good 11 out for free hit this week for anyone on it.
Yeah. And here's something interesting. I did a draft as well, and it's quite different actually. Um, Players the same that we've both gone for. Munoz, Anderson, Van Dijk. So three of, and I've also gone for a back four. Otherwise, it's just Salah and Mateta.
Yeah, I've got no Haaland, obviously, which is a
That's
big
what
factor.
that's what I've done. I've
Yeah,
forced Haaland in with Salah, and I've squeezed out every penny of this, and I'm happy to do that because I've got Josh King sitting there as first sub.
yeah,
So I've got a bench of King, like Devaney, Garcia at Villa, who's flagged. He's 3.9, needed that point one. Cole Darlow, presumably he's going to play in goal, 4.0 on the bench. I've thinned that out. So I've gone differences to you, and this is unusual for me actually because I do like your kind of all-in strategy for a free hit. That's normally what I'll end up with, but I've not ended up on that. The only team I've got a treble up on is Liverpool. I've gone Van Dijk, Salah, and Gakpo. The reason for going Gakpo over Ekiteke wasn't I want to go Gakpo over Ekiteke. It was I want three different forwards, and I was struggling with the midfield choices rather than the attacking choices.
Yeah.
I also think if there's a scenario where the game is going badly for you at the weekend, then Isak for Ekateke with 25 minutes to go feels like a move I could see. I think Gakpo's expected minutes of the two is higher this week. But also, if you said to me, James, you own both, stick the captaincy on one, I agree with you. I'd go Ekateke. But I felt there was more variety in the forward options this week.
Mhm.
So I've gone like this 4-3-3, Pope in goal. I've essentially got a little bit of the coverage of the five teams that look outstanding defensively this week. So Pope in goal, Munoz, Anderson, Van Dijk, like yourself, and I'll put Gabriel in as well. Midfield three for me, Salah captain, Gakpo, and I've gone Harvey Barnes. I think what I'd concluded with Barnes, and I've seen even a few of the Newcastle patrons even saying, not certain that he starts, but he's had the couple of weeks training. He's obviously not been away on international duty. They don't play for 5 days. He didn't start at Leeds because he was overly fatigued. Like, it just doesn't really make sense to me that he wouldn't play and actually play the majority of the game. Particularly also with the news this morning that Johan Visser is going to be unavailable. So for free hitters who wanted to go in Newcastle 9, I can tell you that Voltemade is your choice. I've not gone down that route. I've gone Mateta, Haaland, and Muniz.
Mm, okay.
I
So
really like
you
Rodrigo Muniz for this week.
so you've only gone one Arsenal then, haven't you? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think my expectation on the game is that we'll see a similar Forest, as discussed earlier, to what we've seen under Nuno. Therefore, I'm not bothered.
Hmm.
I've my attacking. If you look at my attacking six, I've got players playing the four worst teams in the league. That's what the bookmakers will tell you anyway, in terms of the free promoted teams and Wolves. Plus Haaland with a home fixture that he's never performed well in previously. For those who thank you, David, for the laughter, which means I don't have to explain the sarcasm because Haaland does have a great record against United, but also not a great record against Amrim's United. It's worth saying.
No, I can't. I can't get that thought out of my head that that might be a stinker. That City against United on Sunday. I think. I mean, obviously the one last season at Old Trafford was it's a shout for one of the worst games anyone's ever seen, really, wasn't
Well,
it? But
Alex Trembath did say, and it's still kind of very relevant. We did the COTC, the Manchester Derby, and Alex went for 0-0, our United correspondent. By the way, there's four COTCs if you want to catch up on them, which are all still pretty relevant. City United with Johnny and Alex, West Ham Tottenham with Chris and Ricky, Bournemouth Brighton with Neil and Sam, and Brentford Chelsea with Tom and Gary. I did mean to say when we were doing the Forest piece as well, Mark Southerns will be on the fan view with me next Wednesday, giving the Forest view of things. I'm going to assume, though, there's no Forest on your wild card draft, David.
there's not no. Um, just get it. Get the.
He's so
Yeah,
good. He's
got
put
it.
it in the bin. Let me spoil it and say I sent you mine to David this morning, and David went, "Shit, that's better than mine."
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, I had a look at the wildcard draft. As always, I sort of got up your planner for anyone on Patreon. It's available to just to look at the upcoming fixtures. So yeah, just to run through it. I think an interesting one is because Salah's got these two much better fixtures than Haaland. You would think over the next 2 weeks. Do you start with Salah or do you start with Haaland? What I've done with this is start with Salah to cover the captaincy for this week and next week, with a view maybe a free hitting in six or triple. You could get Haaland in and triple captaining maybe on in six in that Burnley at home fixture. So yeah, I've got Salah and Strand Larson in this, and you could flip that to Haaland and another midfielder, maybe a Semenyo, um, moving forward. So what I've done with this is I've kept faith with Rodgers and Watkins. It's only been 3 weeks, hasn't it? I know Villa haven't looked great, but I still think their fixtures look good, and I still think they're two really good players. I've left Palmer in. I've left three Chelsea in because I think if you wildcard now, you might as well get your Chelsea in for when their fixtures turn in game week 8 when their fixtures look really good. I've got
Depends
Gabriel
where you
in.
look at it. I mean, six home to Brighton, but I think particularly for game week 9, across 9 and 12, they've got Wolves at home, Sunderland at home, and Burnley away.
Yeah, I've got Gabriel in for to have one of those Arsenal spots when their fixtures turn. Um, got Watkins in at the moment. You could easily turn that to Gyökeres when the time's right after Villa have played Burnley. Um, Kept Virgil in. Goalkeepers, Petrovic and Dubravka are actually my keepers, and I'm quite happy with that. I think Petrovic will be the 4.5 of choice now. Joachim Anderson for Fulham's upcoming good fixtures. So yeah, I mean, doesn't leap off the page this when I look at it, but I did kind of run it through for weeks to come, and it was always fine in terms of covering captaincies and getting some of the good fixtures that are on the horizon.
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise when you sent me yours was no Palace.
Yeah, but I noticed. I mean, it'd be a problem having no Palace tomorrow, obviously, but next few after that aren't great, are they? I don't think.
Particularly if you were considering six as a free hit, because
Yeah,
then you're missing the Liverpool game as well.
yeah, yeah. I just looked at other players, really. Yeah, think you would probably want something, wouldn't you, this weekend for Palace? But yeah, I just kind of left them out for future weeks. But yeah, you'll show yours in a minute, and it probably does look much better. In fairness.
Um, Someone's going to copy this because it's that good. No, it's not that at all. But I wanted to do something. I set myself up a specific task with this particular wildcard draft, which will become very, very clear what I was trying to do in a second. And those who listened to our streams yesterday probably know where I'm going to lead with this. My draft has a lot of differences to yours, David. Again, there's some similarities defensively. So Anderson, Van Dijk, Gabriel, Gibbons for me. Salah's in for me. Similar strategy, looking at flipping that to Haaland in six. And also, interest in João Pedro, I think, was kind of given. We both would still stick with Watkins.
Fixtures.
In agreement, mate.
Mm.
So I'll read you mine. And I would set up this week probably 4-3-3. So Sanchez in goal, bit of Chelsea coverage. As said, Anderson, Virgil van Dijk, Gabriel. And I've gone for Lacroix from Crystal Palace. Not because I prefer Lacroix to Munoz. Quite frankly, I didn't have the money. And I felt it was close enough. That was one, when I looked at sacrifices, that was one I was more comfortable with than any of the others here. Salah and Gakpo. I can see me potentially holding Gakpo long term if it looks safe. And I put Semenyo in as third midfielder. Up front, along with Watkins and João Pedro, timing feels right to me for Mateta. I would have liked Muniz, and I think one of the conscious things for me here was that something would probably move on to Haaland in game week 6 under this setup. And then it was a case of deciding what I liked more between Mateta and Muniz over just the 2 game weeks 4 and 5. And I found it very close, but what I did know with Mateta was that I was a lot securer from a minutes perspective. So he got that nod from me.
Yeah.
Plus, if I looked at Muniz instead, I didn't really know where I was spending the rest of my money, frankly, within these 2 weeks. The bench, Dubravka, it's 4.0. Josh King of Fulham. Xavi Simons of Tottenham, I'll come back onto in a second, and Joe Rodon of Leeds, who has been given the all clear for this weekend from Daniel Farke yesterday. With Simons, I've come to the conclusion what I've seen in terms of training videos this weekend that he probably does start at West Ham. However, I've obviously left him as a sub here because I don't have full confidence in that. But just have a little bit of skin on those fixtures, sort of like 6 and 7 Wolves and Leeds, I quite liked. And certainly by that stage, I think he's kind of up and running. If you didn't want to take that punt, obviously for the same price, Morgan Rogers fits perfectly fine. And under that circumstance, there's every chance I might have even benched Rogers this week. I probably would have played Rogers and I'd have really struggled who I was going to leave out defensively. That would have done my head in. I can definitely see many a free hit team this week having 4 at the back. There'll be some 5s at the back going around as well. Anyone clocks what the plan was yet with this particular team? David knows because I've already told him.
Bench boost 5.
Correct. So we spoke about this a little bit in pre-season in terms of wildcarding this week and setting for game week 5. So for those on YouTube, what you're looking at now is the same team. All I've done is I've put Simmons in the 11 in place of Joachim Anderson, but you could leave it the same. And this would be looking at Sanchez at United, Lacroix and Mateta at West Ham, Van Dijk, Salah, Gakpo at home to Everton, Simmons at Brighton, Gabriel against City, Semenyo against Newcastle, João Pedro at United, Watkins at Sunderland. The bench, Dubravka at home to Forest, King at home to Brentford, Anderson at home to Brentford, Rodon away to Wolves.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
And the beauty of that as well is it's a bench boost that's cheaped out.
Yeah.
I've not set my. I've got to have a 6 million midfielder in here. There's a 4.5 and a 4 defender. There's a 4.5 midfielder and there's a 4.0 goalkeeper. It's just thinned out. It just lands.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So it's not kind of pissed about with your team further on. You can use Anderson as a rotator further on. I think that works. I really like that. It doesn't have to be those specific players. You could prefer a Estev and go Perry in goal. I mean, not Perry, Darlow. The problem I think with that is we don't know how long Perry's going to be out at the moment. So I would still prefer Dubravka as your backup keeper because he will stay the Burnley number one. If you're wildcarding now, you don't want to be pissing about your 4.0 goalkeeper, possibly, by the way, here, guys, for over 6 months. I'd rather go with a guy that I know is going to be number one if I'm wildcarding now.
Yeah, definitely.
So I like that. And obviously, the beauty here as well is if something happened and you suffer injuries, then it's just a bought, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just a bought. I've not set my team up to have 6 million midfield on the bench, 5.5 defender on the bench. It's set with a thinned out squad that could just continue if for whatever reason you felt uncomfortable next week.
Yeah.
And the only thing I'd add in is kind of partly what I'd said. If you don't feel safe with Simmons, then Rodgers is a safer call and it works fine. What I kind of deemed with Simmons was, though, there would maybe be more of a case to hold him longer term because you might go, oh shit, he's really good. And he might not be. Like I would say, I know what I get from Rodgers. Simmons could be great for fantasy, could be crap for fantasy. I don't know yet. But there is a scenario there where you could think, oh shit, I want to chase him.
Yeah.
Whereas Rodgers, I think you're planning in to move. And I would want to be planning in 7 to make sure I'm getting the right Arsenal players and then in 9, the right Chelsea players. And actually moving the player at that value might be quite tough.
Yeah, I think for anyone wildcarded, and there are a lot. I think Fantasy Premier League tweeted yesterday that there were 550,000 people who'd activated wildcards for this week. I think that fixture turn for Arsenal and Chelsea in 7 and 8, you need to try and get ahead of the game for that, or at least have a plan in place for what you're going to do when you get to that point. Because you can obviously bank transfers between now and then if you want to look at that. But I think there will be people who will wildcard then, who will load up on those two teams, I think.
Yeah. As a kind of full circle point to close on this, we're speaking about Arsenal having a great run from 7 and Chelsea having a great run from 9. Primarily because Chelsea play Liverpool in 7. You might argue it's from 6 playing Brighton. You might argue it's from now. But game week 8 is not great. I don't think. I think like if you free hit it in game week 8, you can have quite a few dilemmas. And one of the reasons for that is Sunderland play Wolves and Burnley play Leeds. So it's also a week where people might want to set with this sort of team. And like I said, if it doesn't land, you might go, oh, game week 8 lands a bit better. The consciousness on that should be that Fulham play Arsenal. So therefore the Fulham players don't sit quite so well. But you could look at that sort of thing. It might land well, it might not later on. Chelsea go to Forest in game week 8. And for those of us without Haaland, it doesn't look a great fixture now, but it might by the time we get there. And we might all be captain Cole Palmer in game week 8. Or João Pedro.
Forest, yeah. Yeah.
I will
Liverpool United.
I will remind you, because people won't look that far ahead, though, that is the 12:30 kickoff in game week 8. And you know what Gandhi says? When less is Salah.
Yeah, the captain one. Yeah. Captain the early kicker. Yeah.
I take. Have you got Salah in your main team?
Yeah.
Yeah, I take it that's your captain this week.
He is, yeah. Yeah.
I know I'm going to have a bad week, and I think I'm going Cody Gakpo captain.
Yeah, don't mind that.
I just don't
Definitely
have the choices this week, frankly.
Yeah.
David, thank you so much, mate. Have a great weekend. I was going to plug next week's content, but I will. Should be with me for the game review on Monday. Clash of Correspondence: Wolves versus Leeds next week with Bradley Parker and Ed Salinger. They've got good swing of fixtures, actually, both of them once you get off this weekend. As said, Mark Southerns will be with me to talk Forest on Wednesday. Ash James will be Thursday. David will be back with me on Friday. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. Plenty going on there, including a podcast that's available even for free members that was released yesterday with me spilling my guts out about my son. Not that didn't come across very well. You actually, David, you sell it better. Go on.
That was a really good listen, just about the last year of parenting with Harry and how he's dealing with school and life in general and how it's impacting you. Yeah, it's really good listen.
That's free. If you want my full analysis for England in Serbia, that's on Talking Tactics. That's from Advanced Tier. As always, everyone, smash a like, hit the sub. 5-star review goes a really long way for the audio listeners. Please play it your way this weekend and be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man child.